I will fight back with dollar for dollar retaliatory tariffs.
But if they want to try to annihilate Ontario, I will do everything, including cut off their energy.
Canada's response to Trump's tariffs is a calculated power move that's shaking the foundations of U.S. Canada relations. From targeting essential American goods to threatening energy exports, Canada's counterstrike is hitting where it hurts the most. This is more than a trade war. It's a game-changing showdown with massive stakes for both nations.
They rely on our energy. They need to feel the pain. They want to come at us hard, we're going to come back twice as hard.
The current trade war between Canada and the U.S. is a game-changer. What started as President Trump's decision to impose hefty tariffs on Canadian goods has spiraled into a full-blown economic clash. And Canada isn't just pushing back, it's hitting where it really hurts. With a countermeasure package worth $155 billion, this is more than just retaliation. It's a declaration that Canada won't be the quiet neighbor anymore.
But very importantly, tomorrow tariffs 25% on Canada and 25% on Mexico, and that'll start.
Canada's economy is deeply tied to the U.S. for decades. The two countries have been each other's largest trading partners. These tariffs, which slap a 25% tax on Canadian vehicles, metals, and other key exports, are shaking the foundation of North American commerce.
Look, it's unclear how the markets are going to be impacted by this, but this is coming at a time when already you have a very inflation-weary Americans, many of whom do not want to be thrust into this trade war.
The justification for these tariffs? Trump claims they're necessary to protect American industries and jobs. But the reality is far more complicated. On paper, the tariffs are supposed to create a more self-reliant economy by boosting domestic production. In practice, they're driving up costs for American businesses and consumers alike. Vehicles, appliances, and even groceries are getting more expensive as supply chains face disruptions.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau say that they are going to have $30 billion or tariffs on $30 billion worth of U.S. goods, and that they would impose an additional $125 billion tariffs on American goods.
But the real shock came when Canada unveiled its counterstrike. This is a strategic, calculated move designed to maximize impact. In its first phase of retaliation, Canada imposed tariffs on $30 billion worth of American goods, targeting everyday items like orange juice, peanut butter, wine, and household appliances.
And our retaliation is going to be surgically targeted to create the maximum pressure on the White House to stop what the Wall Street Journal has described quite rightly as the dumbest trade war in history.
They've carefully selected to hurt key U.S. industries and pressure American lawmakers. And that's just the beginning. If U.S. tariffs persist, Canada is prepared to escalate, with the next wave of countermeasures targeting electric vehicles, fruits, vegetables, beef, and even trucks. The strategic brilliance here lies in Canada's phased approach, starting with $30 billion in tariffs now and scaling up to $155 billion if U.S. tariffs persist. This measured escalation ensures that Canada keeps the pressure on while leaving room for negotiation.
American auto assembly plants and other manufacturing facilities. They will raise costs for you, including food at the grocery stores and gas at the pump.
It's clear that Canada isn't holding back, but its impact on the U.S. energy sector makes this situation even more compelling. Canada is the largest foreign supplier of crude oil, natural gas, and electricity to the United States. In 2024 alone, Canada supplied 62% of America's crude oil imports and played a vital role in keeping the U.S. energy grid running. Now, with escalating trade tensions, this critical flow of resources is at risk.
I'm fighting like hell, and we're going to protect Canada. He's underestimating the Canadian people, the resilience of the Canadian people, and the strength of the Canadian people.
Ontario Premier Doug Ford's fiery response adds even more fuel to the fire. Ford has openly threatened to cut off electricity exports to U.S. states like Michigan, New York, and Minnesota, states that rely heavily on Canadian power to keep the lights on for millions of residents.
We're going to cancel Starlinks right away from Elon Musk. Not that $100 million makes a difference for him, but it's principle.
On top of that, he announced a 25% surcharge on Canadian electricity exports to these states and canceled a $100 million deal with Elon Musk's Starlink. These moves aren't just retaliatory, they're a warning shot, signaling that Canada is willing to play hardball in defense of its industries and workers.
But if they want to try to annihilate Ontario, I will do everything, including cut off their energy.
The impact on the U.S. energy sector would be devastating. Without Canadian crude, natural gas, and rare earth minerals, industries dependent on these resources, like electric vehicles and defense, would face severe disruptions. The ripple effect would extend to rising energy costs, supply chain breakdowns, and job losses across multiple sectors. With billions of dollars at stake, this energy standoff could redefine the North American economic landscape.
Well, the stock market is worried. Shares have gone down, and this has been a terrible year for U.S. stocks already because of these tariff threats. And the reality is, you guys need us. We are your largest market by far.
What's most striking about this trade war is how it challenges the traditional power dynamic between Canada and the U.S. For years, Canada has been seen as the quieter partner, often going along with its neighbors' demands. But now, Canada is stepping into a new role, one that's more assertive, independent, and unafraid to take on the U.S., even at significant risk. And judging by the public support for these countermeasures within Canada, it's a role the country is ready to embrace.
The facts establish very clearly that Canada is not an issue in terms of source of illegal fentanyl into the United States.
While tariffs and energy are front and center in this clash, Canada is also addressing another pressing issue: fentanyl smuggling across its border with the U.S. In January 2025, Canada launched a $1.3 billion border security initiative aimed at combating the flow of fentanyl into the United States. This bold move includes cutting-edge technology, enhanced surveillance, and the establishment of a joint strike force. At the helm is Kevin Brosseau, Canada's newly appointed fentanyl czar, tasked with leading the charge against the opioid crisis.
We had about less than 1% when we first started talking about this many months ago. That number is significantly lower than that.
The results have been nothing short of dramatic. By January 2025, U.S. fentanyl seizures from Canada had dropped by a staggering 97%. This success highlights Canada's commitment to tackling a shared problem and puts pressure on the U.S. to reconsider its stance on tariffs. After all, a cooperative Canada is far more beneficial to Washington than an adversarial one, especially regarding critical issues like border security and public health.
Better for Canada to be the 28th EU member.
Meanwhile, Canada is playing the long game by diversifying its trade relationships. While tensions with the U.S. continue rising, Canada has strengthened ties with the European Union and Asia. The Canada-EU Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement, CETA, now allows for 0% tariffs on a wide range of goods, creating new opportunities for Canadian businesses to thrive in European markets.
Reflecting very much upon the nature of our relationship with our largest trading partner, I mean, it's important to understand that Canada exports something north of 75% of our goods and services to our neighbor to the south.
On the other side of the globe, the LNG Canada project is poised to dominate Asian energy markets, supplying liquefied natural gas to countries like China, Japan, and South Korea. This strategic pivot reduces Canada's reliance on the U.S. and positions it as a key player in global energy trade. Canada is effectively bypassing the U.S. by focusing on Europe and Asia, ensuring its economic resilience while diminishing American influence on the world stage.
This sort of cluster in around 5% pay cut for the economy as a whole. It's pretty significant stuff. Takes 2 years for it to reach that.
Let's be real for a second. This trade war isn't just an abstract chess game between governments. It's coming straight for the wallets of everyday Americans. First up, the grocery bill is about to get real unfriendly. Thanks to Canada's targeted tariffs on staples like orange juice, peanut butter, and wine, you're paying more for that Saturday morning breakfast and Friday night unwind.
I'm afraid for both sides, for my workers, for the workers in the United States, but it's devastating. It'll devastate us.
But it's not just the consumers. Entire industries are bracing for impact. The auto sector, for one, is in serious trouble. Canada isn't just slapping tariffs on US-made vehicles, they're also cutting off critical materials like aluminum and steel. And with disrupted supply chains, costs are shooting up faster than a Tesla Model S in ludicrous mode. So what happens next? Is there a light at the end of this tariff-ridden tunnel? Canada, ever the diplomatic neighbor, has been trying to engage US decision-makers to hammer out a resolution. But let's be honest, these talks might as well be speed bumps on the road to economic decoupling. If things escalate further, we're talking full-blown separation between the world's closest trading partners, a scenario that would upend industries and cost billions more. On the flip side, Canada's playing it smart. A unified Team Canada approach has rallied provinces, industries, and even citizens to protect jobs and industries. While the US flails in chaos, Canada is quietly bolstering its resilience, exploring new trade partnerships, and securing its future. What's next in this brutal tariff war? Hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for all the latest updates and hard-hitting insights.